Right here we have a 1993 Polaris Big Boss 6x6. This big thing is only a 250, but it is a 250 two-stroke, air-cooled, fan-assisted. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of chains on this thing. Nice dump bed in the back. This old thing actually runs like a charm. This is a customer's machine. He brought it in for a few different issues. One, the struts are blown on the front. The big issue was the front tires aren't kicking in. The all-wheel drive is not working. Go ahead and fire this up. Try it out a little bit. Make sure that 6x6 is not working. Certainly confirmed the all-wheel drive is not working right. Front tires are not kicking in. Let's get her back in the shop and see what's going on. Looks like the dry fluid is empty. That looks in good shape. How these units work, this is your clutch pack, this is your armature plate, this is your magnetic coil. When you engage your all-wheel drive, it puts 12 volts at this magnetic coil, which puts resistance on this armature plate. So what that's going to do is that's going to force these rollers up, just like that. When those rollers are forced up, it pushes against this outer surface on this hub, and that's what will activate this wheel. Now, sometimes the hub assembly will wear out, but more than likely what's going to happen is these little tabs on the armature plate will break, or your magnetic coil's bad, or you're not getting voltage to the magnetic coil. Now, a lot of your older Polarises have this type of setup in it, from the 80s when they started the four-wheel drive, all the way up till the early 2000s. After that, they went to a similar design like this. However, this clutch pack is actually in your front differential. And of course, just because I said that, I went to the other side. Check this one out. Armature plate's good. Sort of. I mean, you can tell she's been rubbing pretty good. But this clutch assembly is broke. Very surprised that this broke before these tabs broke off. This is aluminum versus steel, but still, usually these will shear. The seals must have been leaking because somebody obviously put grease in here. They're not supposed to have grease. They're supposed to have a fluid almost the consistency of automatic transmission fluid. Like I was saying, these are magnetic coils. They go up. They'll also go up into the circuit board here. And they'll get 12 volts. This wire was broke here. I'm going to have to run a new wire, but I'm going to test this. So this is with no voltage. Yep. Yeah. You can feel it grab. There's some resistance there. So that one actually is working proper. So the main reason the all-wheel drive wasn't working on this Polaris 6x6 is we weren't getting 12 volts down here to the magnetic coil. One of these wires was ripped, but I still wasn't getting voltage out of this board. All that ended up being was a bad ground on the machine, but now we got to do the mechanical problems. Alright, so it looks like I'm going to order all new seals for this thing. I'm going to have to find a used clutch pack because they don't make this new anymore. Then she should be good to go. Polaris Big Boss 6x6. So I've been seeing comments like this a lot. Only a little 250 and a 6x6? You gotta understand, this is a two-stroke engine. Now back in the 80s, like these two old girls here, the 250 two-cycle engine was the only engine that Polaris made. For the ATVs anyways. But even a lot of the other manufacturers, back then a 250 was as big as you're gonna get. They ran these 250 two-cycle engines in a lot of different machines through the years. Now the horsepower on these 250 engines varied quite a bit throughout the different years and models. These machines right here were the first ones Polaris made, 1985s. And then in 1990, they switched to this style. This is a 91 right here. The lowest horsepower would be in the late 90s, early 2000s, Polaris Trailblazer 250s. Those were running around 22 horsepower. Then their highest performing engine was in this one. A 1 year only, 1987 Polaris Cyclone 250. This one's in rough shape. These things produce 30 horsepower from the factory. So if this is in that horsepower range, let's compare it to some other machines. So if we look at this Yamaha Big Bear 400 right here, this thing is rated at just a little over 22 horsepower. Now the Honda Foreman 450 is rated at about 23, 24 horsepower. So if we go off horsepower numbers, these little 250 engines hold their own. Now they came out with this Big Boss 6x6 in the late 80s. The 250 was the only engine you could get with this. However, in the early to mid 90s, you were able to get the 350 liquid-cooled 2-stroke engine. 400 liquid-cooled 2-stroke engine came after. And later on, they went to a 500 4-stroke like this poor thing I got sitting in the bushes. Now these 500s were very good engines. They had plenty of torque to pull that 6x6 around. Then later on down the road, you were able to get it with the 800 twin. Now I do not have one of those Big Bosses. This is just a 4-wheeler. The engines did keep getting bigger and bigger in these Big Bosses until recently. I believe you can still get a Big Boss to this day. However, it's going to be a 570. I'm not sure why they never threw an 850 engine or the 1000 in their Big Boss. The 570 is the only one you can get now. But going back to the original comment, the 250 2-stroke is more than capable to pull this 6x6 around and do whatever you need to do. As you can see, I got all the parts. Hopefully I can get this thing done today. Alright, we're back at it with the Polaris Big Boss 6x6. Got all new seals. Found some issues with the brakes, so we got a couple calipers, a new rotor, some new pads. Got some aftermarket Kimpex front struts here. This was a broken clutch pack. Ended up getting a used one. This one got a very yellow tint to it. I don't know if the oil got warm, or maybe it's just the type of oil they used, but it's in pretty good shape other than the discoloration. Looks like somebody tried changing these struts at one point. They drilled holes through the fender. So you don't actually have to pull the fenders off. You just need to take the rack off so you can pick this up enough so you can get your wrench on there. Old junk. Got a lot of slack in this front chain. We're going to go ahead and tighten that up. Alright, we got the Big Boss here. We're going to go try out the 6-wheel drive. We got the all-wheel drive working now that we're going to test out. Brand new struts in it, so she's not bouncy anymore. I wanted to recoil, so I put a new recoil on it. Let's see if she makes it up this time. The all-wheel drive is working great. She's back to being a 6x6. Alright guys, so the owner of this 93 Polaris Big Boss 6x6 said he saw a lot of your comments regarding speed and how much can it pull. So he said you might as well do a top speed run and pull something heavy with it. First things first, let's go see what we can find to pull. I figured I'd probably better mention that the oil light's on for a reason, because they did delete the oil injection, so you can see the pump's still there, but there's no cable hooked up. So don't worry about that. That was a fail, but the truck has been sitting here for a little bit with flat tires. If I could have got enough of a yank on her, she might have come out of there, but the ratchet strap just snapped. I did try pulling that with the Arctic diesel a while ago, and I couldn't do it either. Go do something that this thing should be able to pull. This is the same tree I pulled with the diesel not too long ago.
We got a pretty good sized tree right here. Light work of that stuff.
So the Arctic diesel is probably one of the best towing machines I get because of the weight, the length, and obviously the diesel torque. Some of these other machines might have more horsepower to pull, but this thing's got the torque, so you can just feather the throttle and pull. And this one's got the weight and traction to actually pull versus some of the other ones. I love all these Adicats because they come with a 2-inch receiver hitch, which I think all ATVs should come with that. You can pull it right out of your truck and put it right in and you'll be good to go. And it was able to pull it. It took a minute, but it was able to get it, so I'm thinking the 6-wheeler should. Certainly did a solid pull right there. Now, I'm not sure if that thing would outpull the Articat diesel or not. That diesel is pretty heavy. I know this has got an extra axle, but that diesel is heavy. She's certainly low geared, but let's see what she's got. We go 36 miles an hour on the GPS. Not horrible for this size machine in a 250. So I've had this Polaris Big Boss 6x6 for a while. The owner was planning on picking it up yesterday. However, I found a problem with this thing. So the morning he was planning on coming, I noticed it was gas dripping everywhere like this. So I took the bowl off the carburetor. As you can see, the needle looks pretty decent. It's fairly clean in here. I'll give it a quick little clean in, but it didn't look too bad. I pulled that needle out. As you can see in the seat, there's some junk in there. That's what was causing this thing to leak. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that out, get her back together, and hopefully we can pick this up today. Well, I'll get her all back together. She's not leaking anymore, so that's good. Time to go bring her back. I will say, after having that Polaris Big Boss 6x6 around, I've been very tempted to fix this one.
Here's my Polaris Sportsman 6x6.
So I know I got to pull this thing out of the bushes. I got weeds growing up through it, and you know, it's definitely worth fixing. This is an 02 Polaris Sportsman 500 6x6. Bought this thing from a farm over in Westmore, Vermont. Look at the tires on this. They put 4 brand new tires right before they sold it to me on the rear here.
And so right there, the tires are worth the full $100 I paid for it. Got a nice dump bed on the back. Like I said, this thing's in pretty good shape, but I need to pull it out of here and go ahead and rebuild that engine.
Maybe I'll get to it before winter comes. That thing would be a beast to plow with.